Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor Live. You know, today Ted reminds me, is our episode, it would be our episode, I don't want to say 6 and something else. And that always has tell me the problem with that. I've never known. I've seen from these creepy bums that would carry it with satanic stuff on them and stuff like that.
Right.
And I have a way of driving them out. But go ahead. Tell me what you.
So I'll let Stephen give the background if he's familiar with it. But my concern was, I mean, there was a chance if this conclave kept going that the Pope announcement may have came the same day as this episode. But we've put our brains together and come up with a genius way to solve the episode. This is episode 665 and a half.
Oh, good. This is like getting rid of the 13th floor in an apartment.
Right. But you don't want to make it the same. You don't want to skip the number total because that could, I felt, somehow confuse us at the end. Do
you agree with this answer?
Down the road, I guess.
Stephen, do you agree with the answer?
Well,
Stephen has a very, very nice jacket on, too, that looks like it could cast magic spells.
So
see that? See the jacket with the stars and all?
And he's got an interesting strategy with his mic.
You see that big boxing glove we got up there? Ted could use that. That's to take on Satan.
I like it.
With all his pomps.
Right. So 666 is the number of the beast.
Pomps and ways.
The number of the beast. And you've heard the mark of the beast. And 666 is...
Was this in The Omen, in the movie The Omen? Do you remember the movie The Omen?
I don't know if I've seen The Omen.
Oh, the original Omen with Gregory Peck.
And there's a new one.
Not the new one. The new one's nothing. Nothing new is good. None of the good.
Especially when it comes to movies.
So
Snow White, that didn't turn out to be good.
Snow White. Disney, right? Did Snow White with that woman who hates America, right?
Right.
I remember that. So I'm going to read the gospel for today, a part of it, because today, traditionally, particularly in the old Latin tradition, was the feast of the two apostles, Philip and James. And it also is probably maybe the most important single quotation from Jesus, certainly in the Gospel of John, maybe in the entire Gospels. Okay, so let's read it here. At that time, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house, there are many mansions. If not, I would have told you, because I go to prepare a place for you. And if I shall go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and I will take you to myself, that where I am, you also may be. And whither I go, you know, and the way you know." Thomas saith to him, "Lord, we know not whither thou goest, and how can we know the way?" This is how he began developing the moniker Thomas, Doubting Thomas, right? Jesus said to him, "I am," and these are the words that may, summarize all of Christianity, right? Jesus saith to him, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me. And if you had known me, you would without doubt have known my Father also. And from henceforth you shall know him, and you have seen him." Philip saith to him, "Lord, show us the Father, and it is enough for us." Jesus said to him, "So long a time have I been with you, and have you not known me, Philip? He that seeth me seeth the Father also. How sayest thou, show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father in me? The words that I speak to you, I speak not of myself, but the Father who abideth in me. He doth the works. Believe you Not that I am in the Father and the Father in me. Otherwise, believe for the very work's sake. Amen, amen, I say to you, he that believeth in me, the works that I do, he shall also be able to do. And greater than these shall he do, because I go to the Father. And whatsoever you shall ask the Father in my name will be granted. That's about one of the most powerful explanations of how to lead your life, which is to reach God through Jesus. Now, what that means is, of course, following the teachings of Jesus. It doesn't mean just saying, I believe in Jesus, God, and then doing whatever you want. But so I think that takes care of whatever spell that stupid thing was going to cast. The Iran negotiations are going on. They're extremely murky, largely because we've had so many different positions laid out, from possible agreement to some level of enrichment to no enrichment but the president, I think, has been definitive, and Steve Witkoff now is repeating that. And the Ayatollah has been clear that they're not going to accept it. So I don't know. I do believe there will come a day in the near future where we're going to have to just make the tough decision and take out the nuclear facilities once and for all. The foreign representative of Iran at the conference, who is the foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, has said that the American demands are unrealistic and irrational. And that is, they can't have any nuclear material. So I don't know where this goes. Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, and Qatar have all said they want an agreement that will stop Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. And I don't know that can be agreed upon. Now, one very dangerous occurrence here, and I'm going to warn you about this because this is an area where I spent a lot of time over the last 12 years. They are involved, studying it, representing them. And that is, what happens if you overthrow the government of Iran? All of a sudden, after having nothing to do with the last 30 years of setting the groundwork for the overthrow of the government of Iran, where 200,000 people have been killed, the playboy son of the Shah, whose name is Reza Pahlavi, wants to come along, and he is now exhorting the president to be tough on Iran. And he believes that if it weren't for the revolution, Iran would be similar now to South Korea. Let me tell you, there was nothing except bullshit in the reign of his father, the Shah, that indicated a liberal democracy. His father was a brutal murderer who used a savak to torture people and to kill people that disagreed with him, whether they were on the left or the right, whether they were communists or patriots or whatever they were. He imprisoned them. His major mistake was not being tough enough on the extremist clerics. If he had been, there would never have been there never would have been an Ayatollah. He was also a very weak man who ran away at one point, and then we had to overthrow the CIA had to overthrow the democratic government of Iran because we were a little bit too worried that maybe they'd be cozy with Russia. And we brought him back, and from then on, he was just basically a figurehead. He stole, like they all do, from his people in ways that are disgraceful. He created like a communist upper class and his son is a self-entitled, deteriorated gene pool specimen of him. And now, after no involvement in any of the dirty work in trying to overthrow this regime, where 120,000 people have lost their lives, he wants to just come in and take over. Well, I have news for him. People do not replace dictatorships with monarchies, and certainly not with the children of crooked, dishonest monarchs that they had to drive out of their country because they were killing too many of their own people. The Shah stole most of what belonged to the Iranian people. And should we put this guy back, this, cocktail party, I'm a prince of this and I'm a king of that, back in charge, we're going to have another revolution in 2 years and probably have the Islamic extremists back. The answer here is the very well put together, very broadly based coalition of Iranian organizations, which is, the core of it is MEK, run by Mariam Rajavi. She is also the acting president of the organization. And it is a very broad-based organization. And it has dedicated itself to principles that I don't hear from the gene pool deteriorated son of a gene pool deteriorated Shah. The theory was that his father, the Shah, was not as tough as the original Shah who took over. He was thrown out shortly after he was put in because he got scared. And Mossadegh took over. And they were creating, now it depends on your interpretation, they're going to create a liberal democracy. They were going to create something else. And they were going to possibly be closer to Russia than we liked. Possibly. And the Shah was going to keep them closer to us. But the Shah didn't want to go back. He had to be talked into going back because he was scared. And he was put back by the CIA. And he never really had control of the country, which he had to rectify by putting large numbers of Iranians in prison and torturing them through a secret police known as the Savak. Now, they may very well be just continued into the Iranian Guard, because this, as I said, gene pool deteriorated son of the Shah seems to be very close to the Iranian Guard. And there's no question he would create just another authoritarian government that subjected the large number of the Iranian people to the same torture they were subjected to under the Shah. So this is just getting in the way of getting rid of the Ayatollah and letting the Iranian people finally have a decent government. And the coalition, the NCRI and the MEK, have committed themselves to 10 principles, which would be anathema to this dictator, this thief murdering dictator, or the son of a thief murdering dictator. And that is a Republican form of government, an elected leadership, women in the government at any and all levels, no discrimination against women, freedom of religion, non-nuclear Iran, an honest Iran that would be subject to audit and careful inspection so that it could become eligible for the international organizations, and an Iran that would have elections within 9 months of the interim government kind of holding it together and putting it together. Now, the group that would take over is basically the group that is behind all the protests that have gone on. And they have sacrificed 120,000 of their people for this cause over 50 years. The Shah has sacrificed nothing. He's taken hundreds of millions or billions out of Iran, stolen from the Iranian people. And all he's doing is getting in the way of what could be a really wonderful humanitarian change for the people of Iran. Now, this whole situation with the Houthis and Yemen is extremely confusing to me. 'Cause I don't know what happened. The president announced several nights ago or days ago that really good news. I think Carney from Canada was with him, and he announced that the Houthis had agreed not to attack American shipping. And I guess they agreed not to attack shipping in the Red Sea. So one of the main problems with the Houthis, actually it started this way, was that they were interfering to such an extent with shipping in the Red Sea that people weren't able to use the Suez Canal. They were down to 4%. And it was having a major impact on many of the economies in the world, not ours. We don't rely on the Suez Canal that much, but all of our allies. And they hit something like, somewhere I saw 130, and then earlier I had seen 180. They did 120 to 180 attacks on international shipping, many of which were American ships. They also hit several American naval vessels, much the way bin Laden did. They killed several Americans. They injured a lot of Americans. And their punishment by Biden was Biden bombed 2 or 3 times places where nobody would be hurt, even though we gave up lives and limbs there to the Houthis. When Trump came in, and Israel then, toward the end, started bombing the hell out of them and slowed them down, killing us. So Israel, as it did with the other proxies of Iran, did our dirty work for us for a while, even though they were dealing with defending themselves. Now, all of a sudden, we make this deal with them. We don't even tell Israel what the deal is. I guess the deal is they're not going to hit shipping, but they're going to hit Israel, which they have already done. But of course, Israel hit them right back and took out whatever remains of Hodeidah, which I believe is the capital city of Yemen. They have hit Hodeidah before, but is that the one from the weekend? The weekend?
From May 6th.
May 6th? Well, it was the 12th. No, that's the original. That was the original attack they did a week ago to respond to. Remember the Houthis have, over the course of a year and a half, maybe more, attacked Israel. They hit shipping about 140 times. They probably attacked Israel about 50 times. Their record of ever getting through is 2 out of 50. One, I think, claimed a casualty. This one here did not, but it was very, very dangerous. It was a Ben Gurion airport. It was about 10 days ago. It was a Ben Gurion airport. And but for the fact that they missed by a little bit, they could have taken out a lot of Ben Gurion airport, which means a lot of people and a lot of critical infrastructure. But luckily, they hit something right beyond Ben Gurion. They injured 12, 15 people, didn't kill anyone. They attempted another strike the other day, and it was turned back. And the Israelis have since then twice hit them. What you saw was the Israeli counterattack, the first counterattack. They did another counterattack on Sunday, and they apparently took out an entire port. So we'll have to see, because we're no longer attacking them. I don't know how I feel about the idea that we make an agreement with them. They're not going to attack us. They're not going to attack shipping. But they're going to continue to attack our best friend, Israel. Something about that bothers me. Does it bother you?
Yo.
I don't get it.
It does. I do think there's some room for, realizing the importance of protecting global shipping.
How about protecting Israel?
The impact on the global economy, including us. So maybe there's a way to not separate, but kind of work in different silos.
I think people can say progress is progress, and having them not attacking, serious.
So you
shipping
say I'm
of-
being too much of a hard nose, like I'm
well, you just love
I'm too
Israel
much
so
of a-
much. We
Well,
all
Mayor,
do.
no,
I'm too
I'm
much of a
deferring to-
neoconservative.
No, not at all. I'm actually I would defer to you on this.
or interventionist.
If I were ever in a decision-making capacity,
Hey,
I'd be calling
I'm
you.
not embarrassed. I'm not isolationist. I think isolationism is irrational.
So what do you think, Mayor?
In an interconnected world, how the hell can you be an isolationist? You got to be a moron to be an isolationist.
So how
So what
hard
do you
are,
think?
How hard are the Houthis?
When and how you intervene is a very different question than being you either are an intelligent, strategic interventionist or you're a jackass interventionist. Just like if you're a complete isolationist, you're a complete moron.
So how hard are the Houthis hitting Israel right now?
They've only got, but look,
The Ben Gurion incident was one, and that was basically like a fizzle.
yeah, I don't think they killed anybody with that one. They killed the one back in July.
They messed up some like streets, and so they have to repour some concrete.
No, they've had two missiles out of who knows 50 that hit.
Okay, I think
One death.
resuming world shipping.
One death.
Oh, I don't like that, but
One death. That was back in, and Israel has hit them back and probably killed a lot more of them.
yeah, I think that with that regard, it's like, oh, you know,
You see, but these people, these terrorist groups, I don't think you have a choice taking out a few of them. I think you got to take them all out. They're going to be around doing this. They're going to just rejuvenate when you give them a little time.
Well, I wonder if President Trump didn't
And
almost.
I think Saudi Arabia would agree with that. Saudi Arabia has no love for Yemen.
oh no,
They've been at war.
what is
on
the
and on.
opposite of love? Actually, I think that's
Yeah,
probably
and if
what
we
they
want,
have.
maybe we get even more money from Saudi Arabia if we.
It also serves a purpose, as you know, they can point to Yemen. Point being, I wonder if President Trump didn't almost put the Houthis in, by tweeting that out, right? Maybe they're in ongoing negotiations. The president said, "Oh, Houthis agreed to this," right? And that gets out there. How the Houthis are gonna,
Well,
it's hard to push back. I mean,
he did get it. He did stretch it to international shipping.
Yeah.
At first, it was questionable: is it just American shipping or international shipping? And now they've made it clear they're not going to hit international shipping, but very defiantly they said we're going to continue to hit Israel. And the only reason I say it's any problem at all is Israel is so busy having to deal with other things.
right.
If this were just Israel and Yemen, bye Yemen.
Or
But,
the Houthis.
Yemen is a little harder for Israel. It's very far away. It's all the way down at the other side of the desert.
And when you say
Relatively.
Yemen, right? Who are you?
Relative to taking out Hezbollah, Hamas, even Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, the other Iranian-backed
They have a lot of
militias.
snakes to take
Yeah,
care of.
the other
at same
Iranian-backed
time.
militias.
And the Houthis have also been very sly in one sense, a little more than maybe some of the others. I think a good deal of their army is gone, but they use mobile launches.
Ooh.
So we've not been able to take out their. Like you can see, there are very few rockets coming from Hamas, none from Hezbollah. We've virtually taken that all out. Believe it or not, I think Israel has left Iran without anything to defend itself. If we wanted to go in there and bomb them, I'm not sure they can hit anything.
Well, and
But the Houthis still have an air defense.
this is why I hated so much with a passion the fact that we left how many billions of dollars worth of weapons behind in Afghanistan. when we withdrew.
People say 85 billion.
You know where they go?
Oh,
they
sure.
they go to these people.
Yes.
And the black market.
Yemen needs to be straightened out so it can coexist peacefully with Saudi Arabia. If we really want to solve the problems in the Middle East, believe it or not, they're not all Israeli Arab. They're inter-Israeli Persian, Israeli Shia Sunni. Maybe if you get beyond the original Israeli problem, they become even deeper problems.
Sometimes you wonder. But I think at the end of the day, a Sunni and a Shia got together. I think they'd team up on the Jewish person instead of fighting each
very,
other.
very. I don't
know.
think so. I think if Saudi Arabia had a choice between the destruction of the state of Iran under the Ayatollah or the destruction of the state of Israel, they pressed the Iran button. I don't think they have any thought that Israel is ever going to hit them with atomic weapons or attack them. I think they are very sure that if Iran becomes a nuclear power, they will try to dominate them. And I mean, look, Israel theoretically has had atomic weapons for 20 years. And never, ever has Saudi Arabia, the richest country on earth, just about, except for us, said we have to have atomic weapons. All of a sudden, Iran has atomic weapons, and they're saying we have to have atomic weapons. I think they know that Israel is basically a rational country.
Exactly.
And Iran is made up of religious, insane people.
If you're a respectful, intelligent, diplomatic country, you can be friends. It's interesting.
Yes. Yeah, right? I think that's right.
Well, yeah, I think that's a long ways away. Saudi Arabia and Yemen never coming together on.
Oh no, it's Saudi Arabia and Israel is what we.
65% of Yemen is Sunni, pro Saudi.
Is that north?
The minority
in the north.
The minority is anti, and they stoke the problem. Now, if Israel does to them what they're doing to Gaza, those people may not be left anymore.
Yeah, but Saudi Arabia has been backing I guess what we would call the Yemeni government for a decade now. Yeah, because the Houthis, and then look what the Houthis. I mean,
well, because they took control. The Houthis took control, and it's like the Shia took control.
Right.
But the core Yemen population,
right,
is Sunni, and should get along with Saudi Arabia.
Right, and people, Yemen, of course, was two different countries up until.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and a lot of the liberty-loving Yemeni population has actually come over here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, which side is the liberty? The Marxist side, were those the liberty-loving ones, or
it's
the
actually hard to. Sorry, I have such an affinity for these people. We spent a lot of time in Dearborn and these areas, and
that's a good point. And I wonder which ones are the ones that come to America.
Not the Houthis. They do not like the Houthis. Neither do I.
No, they don't. So these are probably Saudi. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Good people, right? Why would we want the Houthis in here?
So here's the usual attack, aside from that one at Ben Gurion Airport. On Friday morning, the Houthi terrorist group launched a ballistic missile at Israel after vowing to keep attacking the Jewish state following a ceasefire agreement with the U.S. With the Iron Dome missile defense in place, they intercepted the entire thing, and there were no injuries and no damage. So, by and large, that's what's going to happen. The problem is when you're also at risk of being attacked from the left and the right and the middle.
Right.
One more doesn't help, and one can always get through, as we found out. Meanwhile, it's not deterring Israel from finishing the complete destruction of Hamas. They are conducting a major invasion of Hamas. They are carrying out the distribution of humanitarian items so it gets to the people and not stolen by Hamas. They've eliminated another 24 of the Hamas secondary leadership with no casualties. So, I mean, every day there's more of an elimination of Hamas and of the Palestinians who are loyal to Hamas. Well, the United States and China are progressing toward a deal, we think. It depends on the tea leaves that you read, and of course that would be appropriate if it's China. And if you read the American tea leaves, they are quite optimistic. If you read the Chinese tea leaves, they're more mixed, like we've made some progress. The president looks like he'll knock the tariffs in half. But there is every indication that this is devastating China much earlier than people thought. Their exports are down to levels that haven't been seen in years. Their measure of profitability through exporting is in grave jeopardy. In other words, it looks like they could be losing money already. Now, remember, unlike us, their GDP is double dependent on export than ours. So for every hit to our exporting, it's two to China's.
And perhaps even greater considering how they lie.
Honestly, it is greater. It is absolutely greater because we're a much more adaptable, flexible economy than they are. They are, as you would imagine, from a communist country, a very, very rigid. You can see Xi Jinping for a year has been trying to change their economy. This is like moving an old battleship as opposed to a new, fast nuclear submarine. America can change very, very quickly. We have an enormously flexible economy. They have an enormously rigid economy. It's a command economy. It starts up here, and you're commanded down here. Now, we have a little too much of that, but compared to them, my goodness. So they are suffering tremendously. We showed you pictures the other day of what they have on the docks that aren't going out. It's enormous. And they can't find quickly alternatives to that. Look, they're not very popular. Their whole effort over the last 10 years, where they were giving out money to do projects, has in most cases turned against them because they operate like an organized crime group. They come in, they loan you money. It's not an economic transaction as it would be with the U.S. or Great Britain or whatever. It's a shakedown operation. They try to get you in over your head, and then they try to take over. And they also steal all of your intellectual property. They require you to invest in China. They require you in any major transaction to bring a large part of it to China so they can steal a lot of it from you. And before you finish, there's nothing left of you.
This is a little taste of the Chinese market, and it's enough to get a lot of people.
Yeah, until they're there too long, until they're there for a while, and they realize they don't own anything anymore. Oh gosh, we don't own anything anymore. We can't do anything that we want. The Chinese require being part of every business in China, including yours.
Well, that's more, right? Aren't they 51% partners, or is it the other?
Well, they used to be 51. They've sort of.
I think almost every arrangement. Yeah, unless you're like a real big shot.
There may be somewhere it's a little bit less, but everything's available.
Warren Buffett might get that, although he's retiring. But he could.
James.
But everything.
LeBron James. Oh yeah, anyone in the NBA would get a favored.
Everything is available to them if they want to see. If they want to see all of your programs, if they want to see how you do things. Amazing. Largely because. And this is just a hard, cold analysis of the two of us, and this takes into account how well they do in school and whatever. They are a fabulous rote memorization country because they're from the top down a dictatorship. So they teach you how to memorize. We are too loose, too easygoing. But we still have extraordinarily brilliant people, and we allow them to be very creative. So we're the society in the history of the last 100 years that's created the most, and they're the society that's created nothing and stolen it. And they don't just steal from us; they steal from Europe, they steal from everybody, they steal from Russia. But they're fabulous at imitating. And then, of course, they have the numbers to put in, so they can mass produce. But they're getting killed. You know what they're getting killed with? They're junk. That Temu and Shine stuff. They were making billions on that. It's almost down to nothing in America now.
Yeah, and they spent, how many Super Bowl ads did you see with Temu and Shine?
Yeah, because they were cool. Have you ever bought anything from them?
I have not.
I have not. I don't even know Temu.
Ted, I think, has, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, I think he's just saying that. I think he purchased a bed from Temu or something.
I don't think so. I wouldn't.
Never mind. Ted never purchased anything from Temu.
Well, I don't really online shop like you guys. You guys are on.
No, I'm on
Amazon, hitting stuff every day.
Buying the gear
every day, little stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean,
I really don't online shop.
It's like giving yourself a little Christmas present.
I didn't know when I first saw Amazon is what I shop on. And when I first saw Temu, they were offering me these gifts. But every time I'd open it up, I thought, oh, I'm going to get a really big gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a $6 gift or a $3 gift or a little piece of crap or, gee, I just don't need another 10 of these in my house.
It is junk.
I never, before I knew they were China and therefore wouldn't buy from them.
Is it the Chinese Amazon?
I bought,
right?
I mean, I don't, until recently did I become sensitive to the fact that I got to look. So I had no idea. I said, who is this Temu group? And at first I was interested because it seemed, oh, maybe this is an alternative to Amazon. And then I couldn't find a single thing on it that wasn't crap.
Yeah, that's why you kind of, and I don't want to give a free plug out
and
here.
And that's before China.
MyStore.com, like Lindell's thing, it's all made in America. All the things. And he's got, it's like its own little Amazon. It's not quite as robust, but,
but he's got good products.
Yes, good products. Exactly. I'm actually.
No, Amazon's up and down.
Sure.
Amazon,
well, there's a lot.
Amazon's quality control is not 100%.
Yeah, sometimes you always have to buy the stuff. You have to kind of look and make sure you're not getting ripped off.
Yeah, you got to go check it out. Here's what I do when I buy anything of any worth. I go online and I ask, what are the best? What are the best? You know, I wanted to get a new translation. I wanted to get a new translation of I have. Would you believe this here? I'm a Catholic, right? So my property is sort of separated right now. Some of it is still in storage when I went through all that stuff. They were even going to take my Bibles, by the way. So I have a beautiful family Bible, a Jerusalem Bible, which is a Catholic version of the Bible, but it's an old Catholic version of the Bible. But I have that in New York in storage. And down here, for some reason, I have 4 Bibles, and they're all Protestant versions of the Bible. I'm a Catholic. Now, I have Catholic missals. I have the gospel books for both the Episcopalian and Catholic Church, the books they use on Sunday to read the gospel. So I have I have translations that are authorized Catholic translations, but I mostly have Protestant translations. So I decided to treat myself to a more modern Catholic translation. Word on Fire, for example, with Bishop Barron, only has the New Testament so far. So I went and I looked online, and first thing I do is before I go on Amazon, I go on one of the browsers and I put in the best Catholic version of the Bible, Roman Catholic version, and then I'll read lists.
And the translation you were looking for, how does it differ?
Here's how it differs. The Bible separated really with Henry VIII. Henry VIII translated the Bible into English, and it's called the King James Version of the Bible. Well, it was actually after Henry VIII with King James, but because they didn't want to use the Catholic version of the Bible. Luther did his own translation of the Bible because they didn't want to use the Catholic version of the Bible.
But that was very austere.
The historical Catholic version of the Bible that took you through the last 200 to 300 years is a French version called Douay Rheims, the Douay Rheims version of the Bible. And from that have come any number of really great translations, both from the King James have come some very great Protestant translations of the Bible, and from the Douay Rheims have come some very great Catholic translations of the Bible. And now a couple of new ones have just come out. Bishop Barron's group, A Word on Fire, has done their own translation of the New Testament with historical footnotes as to how they see words.
And so does the tone shift? See, if you're not multilingual, it's actually going to be very difficult for you to get very...
You know, before I read the gospel, and I read an old version. That was a Douay Rheims version of the gospel. And you hear it's almost like King James. It's almost in Shakespearean English. So, if you read the new versions, the Protestant versions of the Bible, they'd be much more familiar English.
Yeah, because the tone can change.
And the Jerusalem Bible was one of the first Catholic versions that was very, very readable.
And with
Here,
words and the translations
Here,
as they evolve over time.
This is a very popular version. This is the King James version of the Bible. Christian art publishers. This would not be this would not be approved by the Catholic Church as a version of the Bible. How it differs, I mean, they have a couple of books that are different. And in certain critical portions, there's a little difference where there's a difference in doctrine, like the emphasis on Peter as the pontiff of the church is a lot more played down in the Protestant version of the Bible.
Do you ever read the Apocrypha?
I have. I had to.
Aren't those fascinating stories?
I had to when I was studying theology. I had to read them.
Oh,
yeah,
it's so
some
fascinating.
of them. I mean, some of them are crazy. Some of them you can read them and you realize the person writing it was absolutely nuts. But some of them are very, very accurate and have at times been very close to being accepted as a book of the Bible.
Yeah.
I think if we hadn't locked ourselves into, four gospels, I think we'd easily have 8 or 9.
Yeah. And when I would visit different Sunday schools as a kid, I remember hearing those stories in Sunday school. They're not canon, right? But they're part of, they deliver the message of Christ.
Yeah. They're either accurate stories that were passed down very much like the Bible was, or they are somewhat fictional, but true to character.
And super cool.
Yeah. And true to character. A little like when I played for you, Chosen. So they added some words.
They could have added more, in my opinion.
They added some words to it to explain it better. But most of those words you'll find in the Apocrypha. I mean, you'll find versions of Peter's installation as the head of the apostles that are much more fulsome than what you read in Matthew.
Well, if you want to hear something, so if this is any indication of the household I came from, my father learned Greek in order to learn and read a more, I guess, what would you call it?
Yes,
faithful translation.
100%. If you Greek, if you want to get closer to your ability to take the 3 possible words and decide, or the 3 possible meanings, and decide, you have to know Greek. I had to study Greek.
And you can spend your entire life.
Honestly, you have to know Hebrew too.
Well, sure.
Hebrew I never learned, but my friend Alan, who's a Monsignor and a scholar, can read the Bible in all 3 languages.
Wow.
He can do Greek, he can do Hebrew, and he can do Latin.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm going to have lunch with him sometime. That sounds fascinating.
Because the Latin version was translated from the Greek version. So it takes you back very, 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 very far. And you have people interpreting the Greek version who understood Greek, ancient Greek, better than we do. So in some ways, the early translations of the Greek are better than the Greek that we can translate now, because they understood the real tone and the meaning of what those Greek words meant.
The words, the very
1,000 years ago.
Yep. And how they use different words, different ways.
Right.
And you would expect that after 2,000 years, right? Or so.
And the words are very important. The words, I mean, the words become, the words become critical. So I'll give you an example, okay? This is the one that we put on the other day when we had the Chosen. This is from the Protestant version of this is Matthew 16:15. This is Jesus speaking. He saith unto them, "But whom say ye that I am?" This is the King James version. And Simon Peter answered and said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered and said unto him, "Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah. For flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Now, here's where it becomes really important. And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. So now Catholics say, this is really clear. It says, thou art Peter, which means rock, and upon this rock I will build my church. Protestants say, no. What this means is, yep, he did name him Peter, but the rock upon which he's going to build the church is Peter's confessional, or Peter's admission, or Peter's testimonial that he's the Son of the living God.
Yeah, on the concept that we get
Not
salvation,
on the person.
On the concept that we're salvation through Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's the rock. Now the Catholics say, well, then why did he use the same word, rock and rock? He just calls him rock. I mean, it could easily say that thou art rock, and upon this rock I will build my church. And then he goes on, and I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. So the Catholics said they gave him the keys to the kingdom and the right to make decisions that bind people on earth in heaven. Well, then later on, Jesus gives that second right, which he describes sometimes as the right to forgive sins, to all the apostles. So it wasn't exclusively given to Peter.
And his
but
ministry,
as far as I know, however, so this is how it gets, as far as I know, he didn't give the keys to the kingdom to anybody but Peter.
but the way his ministry sort of developed, it was sort of engaging all of us to become disciples and to go out.
Yes,
and
but but did he appoint one leader? Or did he leave it and that's where a lot of traditional Catholics get really upset with this synodal idea, which is really sort of like New England democracy. The Catholic Church is not, I mean, the view of Catholics from time immemorial is we're not a democracy. We're a revealed religion. We're not voting on what the moral principles are. The moral principles are immutable and they've been given to us by God. Whereas Pope Francis was big on, and I know this is a word that probably you haven't heard very much, but it's used a lot now, synodial, meaning governing by synod, governing by New England town meetings. And even this Pope, who I think is going to be quite different than Francis, is into the synodial thing.
Well, and taking wisdom from outside can be a sign of,
but it depends on
leadership.
what condition your society is at a particular time.
Oh, and we're sick.
I would say that our society now needs structure as opposed to lots of input. I think it needs. It's become like gone way in the direction of being unstructured as opposed to too structured.
And we need clarity too.
Yeah,
we need moral clarity.
So the China trade deal, I really don't know if we have a trade deal or not. I think we have a trade concept. I don't think we have a trade deal. Now, exports to the United States plunged in April. That you're going to say, well, that hurts the United States. But who gets the money for the exports? China. Their biggest customer is no longer buying from them. Well, does that hurt their customer or does it hurt them? It really depends on who has the more flexible economy. Who has more options, us or them? Do they have more options to sell what they can't sell to us? Or do we have more options to buy what we can't buy from them? I don't think there's any question about that. And I think the people who get so nervous about tariffs are extremely ignorant of economics. Unless you're going to just do arbitrary tariffs that had no connection to where you can make great deals. So far, tariffs have led to remarkable turnarounds in world trade that makes them a lot fairer. I even think some of these foreign leaders are beginning to see the wisdom of trying to have the same circumstances on both sides. Like with England, we were able to solve perennial problems they've had with us. We're hurting them with certain things that they produced. They couldn't get into the American market. And in exchange, they did the same thing for us. And given the fact that we're all not the same, this is going to turn out to be an extremely lucrative arrangement between us and England. It could be that way with China, but China will cheat. China's desire to do this is not just to become wealthy, it's to control the world and then to destroy whomever they're in business with. So, and also, I mean, the reason we're increasing our tariffs on the EU, what the president said today, in many ways, EU could be even worse in terms of tariffs than China. First of all, I don't think the president's right. I think he's wrong. I think there's no comparison between the EU and China.
But even with the non-tariff trade barriers, like the environmental considerations and things like that.
I think that's right. But it doesn't matter. The Chinese tariffs serve a second purpose other than taking economic advantage. They want to destroy you. The whole purpose of it is to destroy you. The whole purpose is to create a monopoly for them so that you will be completely dependent on them. That is not true with the EU. The EU does not have as its ultimate, the tariffs are serving the purpose of taking over the world by 2048. That is not the case in the EU. That's not the case in Canada, not the case in Mexico. It's not the case any place other than in China. So when we're dealing with tariffs with China, we're dealing with national security, not just good, solid economics. And right now, China is China's getting killed. They're getting killed. $16 million jobs in China are directly affected by exports to the United States.
You see some of the videos of all the shipping containers stacking up over in the ports over there.
Meanwhile, Taiwan is working overtime to overhaul its military and working to get more and more backing by the United States. And I think that is the reason for that tremendously lucrative deal for us, in which the chip manufacturer, the biggest and the best and the most sophisticated chips in the world, is moving a lot of its operations to the United States in general and to Arizona in particular. I also think it's an economic decision as well as a decision of duplication, so that in case they lose some of it, they can destroy what they have in Taiwan and continue in America. They also are increasing the size of their military dramatically. Increased it by about 30% over 2 years. They filled their vacant positions by 30%. Military spending is up, even under the Democratic Progressive Party, which is somewhat more favorable to Red China Party. Now, under the Kuomintang, I mean, they did a big reduction between 2010 and 2017. They did a major reduction in their military budget. Now they've restored about half of it. And that is the left-wing government has done that. But it wouldn't be bad if we could get the Kuomintang back, and that budget would double, the military budget. And after all, we now, as we thought about Europe and NATO is still important because of the threat of Russia. If the bigger threat is China, then a similar arrangement for Asia is necessary. Japan is interested in a NATO for Asia, but everybody else, I'm talking about the United States now, but everybody else wants it not as rigid an arrangement. Although we do have pretty much a joint security arrangement with Japan, South Korea, Philippines, and Australia. And Singapore.
Is India involved in any of these?
India is half involved and half not. And India came out against Japan's suggestion of NATO right away. And I don't understand that. And it may require some stroking of Modi to get him on board. Because Japan and India have a common enemy. And they would be quite a combination surrounding China. Japan on one side, India on the other side. Japan potentially with a great military, they could build it really fast, and India with a great military already,
and a population,
and a population greater than China's. And maybe in 5 years, an economy greater than China's.
But see, and now they're getting tied up with Pakistan, right? So it just
but Pakistan is good practice for them. Sorry, I know we shouldn't like war, and I don't like war, and I'm glad they're not doing it. But they are war-ready conscripts because they've been on a war footing with Pakistan for 30 years. So it's not as if they're just sitting back, looking at the targets.
Sure.
The president is putting tremendous pressure on both. And on Saturday, there was a meeting in Kyiv that included, I think, I'm not sure if they were all at the meeting or they were on the phone or whatever, Macron, Fred Mertz, who is not to be confused with the character in The Honeymooners.
No, I Love Lucy. You get it wrong every time.
Oh,
Fred Mertz is the landlord in I Love Lucy.
Oh, I Love Lucy. Oh, okay. Oh, that's Art Carney. Art Carney is.
How do you know that?
Art Carney. Yeah, Fred Mertz. Right. Little fat Fred Mertz. Right. He's also the political fixer in the Thanksgiving movie about the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. The one where Santa Claus goes on trial. Remember the name of that movie?
Ted.
The political fixer?
Yeah.
That goes on trial?
No, the political fixer is the political fixer of the judge who tells the judge, you better not rule against Santa Claus. You want to get reelected.
Oh.
That's Fred Mertz.
Miracle on 34th.
No, Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's good old Fred Mertz.
Oh, I could use a trip down memory lane like that.
So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back quickly. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax, channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly, where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code Rudy. Act fast.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Well, it is quite well known throughout the world now that we have a new pope, Pope Leo XIV, an American who spent a good deal of his life as a missionary in Peru, but an American and quite a connected American. You know, at first, when you heard he was in Peru that long, you wonder, well, maybe he's floated out to sea as an American. But when you listen to his family interviewed and you listen to his history, you realize that this is a true blue, is a true blue American, as well as a very, very godly and saintly man. He's a graduate. Well, he's a graduate of Catholic schools in the in Chicago, in the south end of Chicago, in actually a small community called Dalton. And then when he went on to his college education, he was educated at Villanova University. Both his high school and his college he was taught by the Benedictine order of priests and brothers. And as a result, when he decided to become a priest, he majored in mathematics, interestingly, at Villanova, where he graduated in 1977. But he went on to his seminary training I believe, back in Chicago, where he got a master's degree in theology. And then at the Pontifical Institute, he received a doctorate in church history, maybe.
You know, the mathematics thing is new to me. I was not aware of that. And it actually gives me a lot of confidence that he'll be able to navigate the financial situation of the Vatican.
Well, that's one of the reasons they selected him. One of the reasons they selected him is it's obviously a disaster. Francis having said he was going to stray, and I didn't know what the hell he was doing. And it is now a disaster. And he has a record at his various assignments. Remember, he was the head of the Augustinian order worldwide. And then he was the head of a poor diocese. And they say, and then he was the head of selecting 5,000 bishops for the world. And they say he is a very skilled, organized person. And they credit that with one of the reasons they were willing to go with an American, because they said he has American business skills. Now, I don't know, I don't know
Here-
if that's a little bit of a fiction, but he may, even though he's been critical of Donald Trump, he may have gained something from Art of the Deal.
That's right. And here he is, of course, signing a baseball, which I'm sure he'll be signing a few of those.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? I mean, there's something about that just, I have to tell you, you know what a great, you know what a great playoff, series that Jalen Brunson is having, right?
Right.
Well, he's a Wildcat from Villanova, and he says, I'm just happy that we're getting noticed for being a good school. It's really cool for him, and I'm very happy for him.
It's very cool.
Very cool for him.
Yeah, that's quite the
He's a
response
cool
there.
Pope. Now the Knicks
That's very
have
American.
four.
Right on, dude.
The Knicks have 4 Villanova graduates. 4.
Wow, Villanova's having a.
So, I mean, if they don't win,
They
the
get-
Pope doesn't have any mojo.
That's what I'm thinking. I think the
He's
White
gotta have
Sox.
some Pope mojo.
Let's
It's
see how
part of
the
a
White Sox done the
broader
last
vision.
week.
Nothing can help the White Sox.
Yeah, literally, they got the Pope as a fan, and they're still at the
And not
bottom of the
only a
AL
fan,
Central.
when his brother came forward with that, there was a certain, well, he's a White Sox fan. I mean, the Cubs made a very big mistake claiming him. Now, his home in Dalton, was purchased a short while ago. You're going to see him right there at the World Series. He's like a regular guy, right?
Right.
So his home was purchased, and for a while it went through some very bad times. Drug dealers had it. It got beaten up, and this developer who flips homes, named Powell Radzik, who is an immigrant from Poland, purchased it and fixed it all up, did a whole redo of it, and had it on the market for $200,000. It's a small brick house in Dalton, Illinois, and it was home for some drug dealers for about a year. And then Radzik bought it up, did a redo on it, and now he's taking it off the market. It has 5 bedrooms, so it's a nice house, obviously. It's a upper
Wrap up in 2 minutes.
middle class,
2 minutes.
upper middle class, something like that house. And it's been gutted for resale, but it's 212 East 141st Place. Radzik originally paid $66,000 for it, and now he had it for $200,000. Now he's taking it off the market to consider his options. And I'm not sure.
Here's his home here. We're going to
I'm
bring it
not
up.
sure I know what his options are, but it may be a museum. And Stephen is very interested in the church. which is
Don't
right
tell
there.
people my idea.
Okay, I won't say anything. Maybe you can put the both together.
Here's the
You
home.
know-
Here's his home.
Yeah, nice home, right?
Well, it's a modest home.
But you can make it into a nice museum. The Pope also, in addition to being Spanish, French, and Italian, is also Creole, which means he's partially black.
And what's the lineage on that?
His grandfather and grandmother, I think paternal, okay? The Pope's the Pope's, this would be on the Hispanic side. The Pope's maternal grandfather, Joseph Martinez, was described as a black cigar maker from Haiti.
Cigar maker.
Also, alternatively described as having been born in the Dominican Republic or Louisiana. And his wife, his maternal grandmother, was Louise, who was born in New Orleans. Both Martinez and his mother, Louise Baquet, were people of color, according to a historian in New Orleans. And his brothers have affirmed the fact that there is Creole lineage. Not only that, they've affirmed that he's a White Sox fan. He's a Bears fan. And also, one of his brothers is a very dedicated MAGA supporter. He's a Republican who has been critical of Trump and Vance, but on the issue of immigration, which would be typical for a Catholic. I mean, so is Cardinal Dolan. As to his other political views, we don't know. But his oldest brother, Louis, has a group of tweets from some years ago, very, very strongly supportive of President Trump and rather critical of some famous Democrats that he was being interviewed about on Newsmax, and he was quite funny about it. But he stayed away from it. He doesn't want them to affect his brother. And both brothers are just so charming that if the Pope is anything like them, he's one hell of a nice guy. They're just such regular guys. He's got a heck of a challenge. He got to straighten out the finances of the church. He's going to have to straighten out this whole synodal thing. And he's also going to have to figure out the balance between going modern, and then a church that has always been a historical institutional church. And in fact, carries a great weight because it's the biggest church in the world. And it carries Christianity from the day it was born. So whether you agree with its history or its views on the Pope, until the 11th century, they were the Christian church. And until the 14th and 15th century, they were the Western Christian church. It's only then that you began having Martin Luther and John Wesley and Henry VIII. And so this is 1,400 years of Christian tradition that they carry the weight of, and still have an influence, beyond their 1.4 billion, because they're the only church that reaches out into every corner of the globe. And they're growing in every corner of the globe. And I'm going to make a prediction. When Cardinal Dominic Mamberti went up to him and asked him, "Are you going to accept being vicar of Peter?" And the cardinal answered, "Accepto." And he took the name Leo the 14th. This is going to be a very great pope. I watched a whole interview with him when he was a cardinal back about 10 years ago. Well, I'll tell you this, he is a very, very smart man. And during the voting process, it's been revealed that as it became apparent that he might be the Pope, it is described by people who are not allowed to say this, but I'm allowed to say it because I'm not a cardinal. He had his head down like this. And it seemed to them like the people that supported him wanted him to get his hand. They said it might discourage people from voting for him but as soon as he won, hands came off, and there was no hesitation. He, I'm sure, truly believes, as many of them do, I think probably all of them, you can't always say all of them, that this was a decision that was inspired by the Holy Spirit. And therefore he feels the confidence of that. We should, before we leave, mention the plight of Cardinal Joseph Zen. Cardinal Joseph Zen is a bishop, cardinal of the Roman Catholic Church that is assigned to China. He traveled to Rome for Pope Francis's funerals. He's accused in China of violating the draconian national security laws, and many recommended to Cardinal Zen, including many theologians of both the Catholic and Protestant religions, who, of course, are both equally persecuted, along with the Muslims in China. they told him he should use it to defect. And Cardinals then went back to China, where he's going to be in prison, even though he's in very poor health. And he said, many Chinese pastors have been imprisoned for holding fast to their faith and loyalty to the Holy See. I will not and should not leave. Do not be afraid, he told the press in 2021. This is like the church at the beginning, isn't it? First 20 pontiffs were martyred for the faith. And I always have believed that's how they won over the Roman Empire, the courage they showed and the love they showed in light of the terrible, terrible persecution of them. Well, all of you, please pray for all of these countries that are at war. Definitely for Israel and for Ukraine and for Iran and for us and for the new Pope, so that he can give us the guidance and bring God back into our lives. And we'll be with you tomorrow. Don't forget, 7 o'clock, Lindell TV. 8 o'clock, America's Mayor Live. God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given